In this lesson, we're going to look at how we can add integers. Now, the strategies that we're going to use will work for any kind of real number, not just integers. But for these examples, we're going to focus on integers. So say if we want to add the numbers -2 and +5, as we see here, -2 plus 5. One strategy is to use counters. Now you may have seen counters being used in your math class in school, and they look like little round chips that are used for counting. So if we want to use counters to add -2 and 5, we first start off with 2 negative counters, and this will represent the -2. And then we'll add 5 positive counters. Now each positive counter will cancel out one of the negative counters. So this positive will cancel out that negative, and this positive can cancel out the other negative. So now we just take a look and see what's left, what did not get canceled out. And we can see that we're left with 3 positive counters. And that's what our answer is, +3. So -2 plus 5 equals +3. Now let's look at the same problem, but solving it using a number line. So here we have a number line. We can see that we have both positive and negative numbers here. When we use the number line, first mark off the very first number that we see on the number line. So we start off with -2, so we're going to mark off -2, mark off that spot on the number line. And since we're adding 5 to it, addition tells us that we're going to move to the right on the number line. So we're going to move to the right 5 places and see where we end up. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can see that we end up at +3. Wherever you end up, that's your answer. So once again, we can see that the -2 plus 5 will equal +3. The third way is just by using reasoning, which means that you're going to think your way through the problem rather than using tools like counters or number lines. So one way that you can think your way through this problem is to first just look at the numbers and ignore their signs. So we're not worried about whether the numbers are positive and negative yet. So we'll just look at the 2 and the 5. Don't worry about the negative and the plus sign. And we want to find the difference between those two numbers. So the difference between 2 and 5 is 3. Now to see what sign the answer will be, we find the sign of the larger number. Now since our numbers are 2 and 5, 5 is larger. So you can think of it like the larger number is like the boss. It's in control. It's going to determine what the sign of the answer is. So 5 is the larger number and it's positive. So that means that our answer is positive. So we figured out that the difference between the two numbers is 3 and that it will be a +3 because the larger number 5 was positive. So once again, we still get the same answer, -2 plus 5 equals 3. So just to summarize, we saw 3 different strategies that we can use for adding integers. We can use counters, a number line, or reason our way, which means just thinking our way through the problem. Another way is to use a calculator if you have one available or if you're allowed to use them in class. Now when you use a calculator, you just have to be very careful to enter the signs correctly. So just make sure that you pay attention to the negatives and subtraction signs and don't get those mixed up. And it just comes with practice to get more comfortable with it. And keep in mind that these methods do work for all real numbers, not just for integers. In these examples that we just looked at together, it was a little easier to work with integers so that you can see the counters and the number lines, see how they work with those more easily. But these strategies can work for any real numbers, whether they're fractions or decimals or anything. The further along you move along in algebra class and get more comfortable, you'll probably come to rely on a calculator or even reasoning your way through these problems more than using counters or number lines, but they are still perfectly fine to use. All right, so now you know how you can add integers.